Let's go!
If you guys haven't heard, the NHL is back. At least we know when it's coming back. Should be sometime in August. So obviously I am super excited for this. And yesterday Gary Bettman released a video just detailing kind of all the new information for how the NHL plans on returning, the new playoff format, which actually includes 24 teams opposed to 16, how that'll affect the draft lottery, what they're doing to keep everyone safe, all that stuff. So in this video I just want to give you guys my initial reactions to all the news. Honestly, first things first, I'm just excited we're getting NHL back. I saw online tons of people saying just cancel the season, just cancel the season, and that never made sense to me. Like, we were 70 games into an 82 game season, so about 90% done. Why would you just throw it all away? Like, it makes no sense at all to me. What I'm thinking they're gonna do, and what always made the most sense to me, was once you can finish out the season. As it turns out, the regular season's now over. He actually said that. We're getting right to the playoffs. And then if the next season's delayed, just have the next season be a shorter season like you have during a lockout where, you know, it's only a 48 game season or whatever opposed to 82. It makes a lot more sense to me to have two partial seasons, especially when the first one was 90% done, than to just can the whole thing and skip a year. Like, all the hard work all these guys have put in all year long just gets thrown away, and for really no reason. Like, again, you can just wait to start it back up. I didn't understand that crowd's point of view, so I'm really glad the NHL did not go down that road. Now, like I was saying, guys, we're actually doing a 24-team playoff. Basically, this ensures that any team that had a chance, even if it was like 0.1% chance, to make the playoffs before the break, still has that chance. And honestly, teams like Montreal and Chicago who are in it, I'm not even sure if they mathematically had a chance, but I still understand their point of view, where basically they'd rather have a couple teams in there that maybe don't deserve it, opposed to leaving teams out that definitely do. If they went to 16 teams, you'd have hard discussions about, you know, who deserves it more, a team that has more points or a team that has more points per game. Is it worth it to actually earn that point? Or do you assume the more points per game would continue that trajectory? Kind of like the argument between Columbus and the Islanders in the East, or even, I think, Winnipeg, Calgary in the West. So I understand why they did it this way. I know I was thinking they should have done like a 20-team playoff format. That way you get the bubble teams in there, maybe have them have like a play-in round, then start it. But there'd be issues with that too. If, say, you had like the top 6 teams just sitting out the first round, and then 7 to 10 all did their play-in rounds to decide who gets 7 and 8, you'd have people saying, oh, the top 6, then they're going to be more rusty or whatever. So at least in this format too, everyone's playing, as even the teams with first round buys actually get to play each other to decide seeding. So I feel like they have thought of a lot here, and you can always nitpick it, but honestly I think overall they did a pretty good job. Now, as I already mentioned too, this means that the 2019-2020 regular season is officially complete in terms of like record keeping and everything. Regular season is now over, so Draisaitl's our Ross Trophy winner. I think Pastrnak and Ovi are sharing the race with Richard. In terms of voting, like, obviously season's over, so for any other awards based on the season, I believe the play-in round is considered its own thing and not the regular season or the playoffs, as the teams that lose in that first round actually have a chance at the draft lottery. So a lot of teams trade away first round picks if they make the playoffs, because they knew if they made the playoffs they wouldn't have a lottery pick. But if you lose in the play-in, you do have a lottery pick. So I think for those purposes, you lose in the play-in, it's like you didn't make the playoffs, but you win, you're now in the playoffs, you would lose your picks. And also they said how each conference is going to have its own hub city, where all 12 teams will be from that conference, which I think is pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of like the Olympic Village during the Olympics. Now, for this, they've actually listed a bunch of cities that could be hub cities. I'm not sure if they have to have one Western city, one Eastern city, as they could have the whole Eastern Conference in a Western city, and then simply just play their games according to like the Eastern time zone, so those fans wouldn't miss out or anything. But I'm thinking they might want to do that, in which case I feel like they're definitely going to lean towards smaller cities, just less population, hopefully, you know, less worry about anything spreading. So my eyes, I think in the West, are going to go with Edmonton. I actually saw that Edmonton like pitched a whole thing basically about like their own area for the NHL that wouldn't even be like open to the public. Looked pretty cool. And then in the East, this one was kind of tough. Honestly, I think Vegas still has a good shot, but again, if they do want to go Western City and Eastern City, I'm going to go with Columbus here. Again, they want a smaller city, so Toronto doesn't really make a lot of sense. Columbus, I heard, has a huge hotel that can pretty much host everyone for those NHL teams. So that's my guess of who the 2 host cities will be. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see. Also, too, here it says how early June, so literally a week away, clubs are going to start returning to their home facilities for voluntary on and off ice training, so they pretty much get started right away. Now, formal training camp doesn't actually start until July, but I'm sure a lot of guys are going to kind of want to start skating at least before training camp starts, as, you know, 3 months without skating, they're going to be a little bit rusty. As I mentioned, the top 4 teams in each conference are going to get a bye past the play-in round, but they're still playing games against each other to decide seeding, so if you win that, obviously you're ranked 1, you'll get the lowest ranked opponent. And then the 8 remaining teams play that qualifying round to determine who actually makes the playoffs. Again, here it says how it could be a bracket format or determined by seeding. Bracket formats we usually get where, you know, these 2 teams play, these 2 teams play, the winners of each play each other. I prefer seeding, where basically If these two teams are the highest seeds above these two, then you have one play 4, two play 3, opposed to potentially one playing 2. I just think it's a lot more fair. It also says too, the first round of the playoffs is actually best of 5 as well. So they're probably just doing that due to time constraints, while the rest of the rounds are all best of 7. Right there, you guys can actually see what the bracket's going to look like. Again, I think they did a pretty good job here. Really, no matter what solution they came up with, it wasn't going to be perfect. So I actually like this a lot. It kind of gives us a bit more hockey, which is good to make up for the 10 games we missed at the end of the regular season. So honestly, I'm just hoping it goes well, starts on time, and we actually get a Stanley Cup champion crowned in 2020. Now moving on to the next part of this video, Gary Bettman talks about the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery. This is where I start to kind of disagree with what the NHL is doing. So basically, they're going to have 2 lotteries, which already is a bit strange to me. So the 2 phases are the pre-qualifying round and the post-qualifying round, if necessary, lotteries. Already, I feel like it's a bit too convoluted, but what are you going to do? So basically, the 15 teams eligible to win the top 3 lottery picks are the 7 teams that aren't involved at all in the playoffs, and then the 8 teams that get eliminated in that qualifying round. So again, those 8 teams who get eliminated technically didn't make the playoffs, but they did have a chance at the Stanley Cup. So you could be a team like Pittsburgh, a team like Edmonton, have a bad, 3 games, get swept 3-0 in the best of 5. You miss out on the cup, but then you actually get a chance at Alexis Lafreniere. You could win them. Crosby, Malkin, Lafreniere, McDavid, Draisaitl, Lafreniere. I'm personally not a fan of it being a Red Wings fan. There's actually a bunch of rumors circling around that the Red Wings might get number 2 pick at worst, as they're just going to go back to the old system where no team could jump more than 4, and so basically it would just be 1 lottery for first overall. The max you can jump up is 4, in which case, Red Wings are picking number 2 at the least, but unfortunately, that did not happen. I honestly think this new format, you could argue, is worse than the original format, which really sucks. And in this video, Bettman says how they wanted to keep the draft lottery format the same, as that'd be the most fair, but I don't agree with that, as the playoff format is no longer the same, so why should the draft lottery format remain the same? Doesn't make sense to me. So, as you can see here, it says before the qualifying round, you'll have the draft lottery for the first, second, and third overall picks. Basically, what's going to happen here, I'm going to sum it up, I think, pretty simply. They have the draft lottery with the 7 teams that aren't involved in the playoffs at all, and if those 7 teams are the teams that win first, second, third overall, then we're good, nothing else happens. But let's say Red Wings win first overall, second overall goes to a different team. They've actually got them listed alphabetically, like A to H or whatever it is. Something for the lottery process to represent a team that hasn't been determined yet. And then say the third overall goes to Ottawa. We now know that a team that currently has a chance at the Stanley Cup will be picking second overall. Who that team's going to be, we don't know. Now, if you add all these percentages up, the 7 teams that are not involved in the playoffs have a 75% chance of picking first overall. Now, the 8 teams there that are going to be bounced out of the qualifying round have a 25% chance. Of course, there's 3 lotteries, so they have 25% chance at first overall, and then around 25% chance again at the second and third overall. So there's a pretty good chance they're going to be winning one of those 3 lotteries, in which case, like I said, I just don't think it's that fair. You have a team who has a chance at the Stanley Cup, missing out, and now getting a chance at the lottery. Like, you're having your cake and you're eating it too, whereas the teams that are getting the buys, so your Tampa Bays, your Bostons, they don't have a chance at the lottery. Like, they're in the playoffs, so that's it. Those 7 teams like Red Wings and Ottawa, they don't have a chance at the Stanley Cup. They're in the lottery, that's it. It's those teams in the middle that actually get a chance at both, and I don't really know how they came up with that. I personally don't think it's that fair. Now, let's say one of the qualifying teams who got bounced in the first round actually end up winning the lottery. We're not going to know who that team is until there's the second lottery. As like I said, they're just represented by a letter at first, and Team A doesn't equal like Edmonton or anything like that. Team A was just there to represent the 6% chance of winning the lottery. Once we have the 8 teams that have gotten knocked out of the qualifying round, they're all going to have an equal percent chance at that lottery ball that won the pick. So whether it was A, B, C, D, it doesn't matter. As long as one of those letters won, those 8 teams have an equal chance to basically be that Team A, be that Team D, whoever it was, which is why, like, Pittsburgh could get knocked first round, Edmonton could get knocked first round, same with Chicago, same with Montreal, and Pittsburgh and Edmonton have the same odds of winning that lottery as Montreal and Chicago, even though they finished with how many more points in the regular season, because they both made it the same distance in the qualifying round, which is kind of insane, and like I was saying, is why there's a chance you could have Lafreniere going to Pittsburgh, going to Edmonton, going to Toronto. Like, it's absolutely insane to think about. If you guys watched the Red Wings Calder Cup video I uploaded a couple days ago, you'll know that the Red Wings are not a good team at all. We actually only won 1 game this year by more than a goal, and we still have the exact same lottery odds. Nothing has increased, even though there are 16 teams in the NHL who get a chance at both the Stanley Cup and the first overall pick. It just makes no sense to me how the Red Wings can be terrible all season and potentially lose out on the first overall or any of the 3 lottery picks to a team like Pittsburgh or Edmonton, who had a solid season and then played bad for 3 games. There's got to be a better way. Also, guys, with the regular season now being over, I'm going to have my NHL award predictions later on, same with a playoff prediction video, so make sure you stay tuned for all of that. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. Kind of wanted to give you my first reactions to the NHL returning, new playoff format, new draft lottery, all that stuff. If you guys enjoyed this one, leave that thumbs up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.